Welcome to Occult Archives. The show where we like to kind of uncover the secrets and the mysteries and sometimes the legends behind history's most, well, let's just say, feared books.
Yeah, feared, forbidden. We're talking about the books that people whisper about.
Right, exactly. Those books that people say, don't read that, it's too dangerous.
You'll summon something.
Exactly, exactly. But, we're not afraid. We're here to dive deep. And today on episode 77, The Secret Doctrine Unveiled, William Walker Atkinson and the Rosicrucian Legacy, we're going right into the heart of it.
Right to the source.
The Secret Doctrine of the Rosicrucians.
By Magus Incognito.
A.K.A. William Walker Atkinson.
First published in 1918.
That's right. So think of this as a guided tour. We're going through this book together. We're going to highlight the key concepts, the juicy bits, the interesting connections. Make sure you get it without, getting totally lost in the weeds.
Yeah, because some of this stuff can get pretty dense.
Absolutely. And your curiosity brought us here, so our job is to sort of shed some light on it for you. Okay, so where do we begin?
Well, the book starts off with a pretty huge concept. The concept of the eternal parent wrapped in the sleep of the cosmic night.
Okay, so not just like, mom and dad tucking in the universe for bed. What are we really talking about here?
Yeah, no, this is about the cyclical nature of existence.
Yeah.
There's this idea of cosmic days, so that's like the periods of active manifestation.
So things happening, stuff going on.
Right, and then, there's the cosmic nights, which are more like potential unmanifestation.
Like a cosmic exhale, a rest period.
Yeah, exactly. Like the universe is breathing in and out. And this idea of, like a rhythmic universe, you find this in a lot of different traditions.
Okay, so this rhythm, this back and forth, this pulse, it's not just some poetic flourish.
No, this is like a core principle governing, everything.
All right, so let's talk about this eternal parent. It's not just, spirit with a capital S, right?
Yeah, right. It's not that simple. The book actually proposes something even more fundamental, an essence of being that's beyond, the duality of spirit and matter.
Whoa, okay, beyond spirit and matter. So how do we even begin to wrap our heads around that?
Well, it's described as without attributes, formless, no distinctions, unconditioned.
So it's like the ultimate blank slate.
Yeah, exactly. And the ancient sages, they would try to describe it by saying neti, neti, that's Sanskrit for not this, not that.
So basically we're saying it just is.
It's just is. And the book uses infinite space as a way to symbolize, this infinite unmanifest potential.
So something so vast and boundless that it defies our normal ways of thinking about things.
Exactly. And there's this cool analogy they use with a flame.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me about the flame.
So imagine a physical flame. Right. At its core, there's this dark, like transparent essence where the flame comes from. And they use this to illustrate what they call the dark flame, which is the essence of spirit.
Not spirit itself, but the source of spirit.
Right, like the wellspring. So the characteristics of spirit, the light, the fire, they come from this deeper, more fundamental essence.
I like that. It flips the usual idea of light emanating from darkness.
Yeah, and in this state of unmanifestation, time doesn't even exist.
No time. How's that possible?
Well, because there's no change. Time, philosophically speaking, is the measure of change. So if nothing is happening, if there's no movement, no flux, then time, as we understand it, has no meaning.
So it's pure potential. No action, no experience.
Yeah, and the possibility of consciousness exists, but it's not being exercised. It's latent. And here's a mind bender. Our everyday consciousness, the one we're experiencing right now, is actually seen as a descent from this state of pure unconsciousness.
A descent, not an ascent like we usually think of it.
Right. The idea is that with manifestation comes limitation. You're focusing that infinite potential into something specific. And so the eternal parent starts to dream of universes as manifestation begins.
So it's like waking up from a dream is actually returning to that ultimate unity.
Exactly. And full awakening from this cosmic night is like infinite self-consciousness. And in this initial state, nothing else real or apparent existed except for the eternal parent.
So a pretty lonely start to things. The book even mentions Edgar Allan Poe and his take on the infinite.
Yeah, Poe talked about the infinite as a single effort toward an impossible conception. He was really trying to grasp the challenges of, our finite minds trying to comprehend something truly limitless. And the Rosicrucians, they're kind of like Spinoza in that they avoid defining the infinite.
Because they believe that to define it is to limit it.
Exactly. To define the infinite is to deny the infinite. And they see the eternal parent as infinitely transcending, any idea of personality.
So it's beyond even our concept of God as a person.
Right, it's something much greater than that.
Okay, so we have this, cosmic slumber, this state of pure potential. How do we get from there to, well, everything?
Well, the book says the flame is rekindled, and the dark light bursts into flame through something called the world soul. And that's the beginning of a new universe.
Okay, so that's the Big Bang moment, the spark that sets everything in motion.
Right, and everything changes. Time begins, because now there's change happening. A thing exists, which is the world soul, a definable entity within the unmanifest.
So we're moving from the abstract to something more concrete.
Exactly, and action begins. There's activity, motion, change, all coming from this initial, what they call germ in the cosmic egg.
Like a seed that contains all the potential of the universe.
Yeah, and here's the key part. The pairs of opposites spring into being. So that means like light and darkness, hot and cold, all the fundamental dualities.
Duality is right there from the start.
Right at the beginning. The world soul is born and awakens into manifestation. And it's driven by this inherent will to live and a need for expression.
It's like the universe wants to exist, to experience itself.
Yeah, exactly. And the world soul emerging, it's like, the first rays of the new cosmic day breaking over the horizon. It's beautiful imagery.
Now, this world soul, it's not just some wispy, ethereal thing, right?
No. The Rosicrucian teaching is that the world soul is clothed in this incredibly subtle, ethereal substance, even finer than what material science calls the ether. And it's from this substance that the world soul weaves the bodies for all manifestations, even the densest matter.
So even physical matter ultimately comes from this more refined substance.
Right. It's like a condensation, a crystallization of something much more subtle. And where does the world soul come from? It's not created out of nothing, ex nihilo.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come from a division of the eternal parent's essence either.
So where does it come from?
It exists as an idea in the eternal parent's infinite imagination.
Like a thought in the mind of God.
Yeah, but not a God as we normally conceive of it. More like a picture, a shadow of reality.
A representation of the real thing.
Right. And at the beginning, the world soul is like a newly awakened dreamer. It doesn't understand its own nature or its status is this idea, but it feels this urge to express itself.
So it acts instinctively, driven by this creative impulse. And this brings us to the relationship between the one and the many.
Yes, the idea that everything is interconnected. It's beautifully stated in the fourth aphorism. The one becomes many. The unity becomes diversity. The identical becomes variety. Yet the many remains one. The diversity remains unity, and the variety remains identical.
So unity and diversity are not opposites. They coexist.
They're two sides of the same coin. And the Rosicrucians have a symbol for this, a small circle representing the world soul with points of manifestation inside, and it's all contained within a larger circle.
The larger circle being the infinite unmanifest.
Exactly. And the points within the smaller circle, those are the individual centers of life and activity that the world soul manifests. And the key teaching here is that all beings are expressions of the one being.
We're all connected, ultimately part of the same source.
Right. Individual focal points of consciousness within that one. And this idea of unity despite appearances, it's found all over the place. In occult teachings, esoteric traditions, philosophy, religion.
It's a universal theme.
Yeah. The text gives the example of the sun reflecting in raindrops. Each raindrop has a reflection of the sun, but it's all the same sun.
Or like an ocean with countless bubbles.
Yeah, each bubble seems separate, but they're all part of the same ocean. And the book suggests that our experience of separateness is a working fiction of creation.
So it's helpful for functioning in the world, but not the ultimate truth.
And the text draws parallels to some modern ideas, like the concept of universal substance in science, primordial substance, infinite and eternal energy, universal ether.
So modern science is starting to catch up with ancient wisdom.
In some ways, yeah. And then there's the idea of universal mind in transcendental philosophy. All these point to this underlying oneness.
Even in Brahmanical teachings, they see the many as incidents in Brahma's dream. So this idea of a unified reality is incredibly pervasive.
Yeah, and the book says that all true philosophy is about trying to find this one unconditioned ground.
It's like the holy grail of philosophy.
Right. And they say that monism, that's the belief in a single fundamental substance, is the essence of philosophy.
Well, dualism, the belief in two separate substances, is seen as kind of a failure to reach that understanding.
Yeah, like you haven't quite gotten there yet.
Okay, so we've got this one, this ultimate unity, How do we get to the many? What's the process?
It's not just a sudden fragmentation. The book talks about involution preceding evolution.
So involution is like the opposite of evolution.
In a way, yeah. It's an infolding, a descent. It's like you can't get something out of the thing that's not already in it.
So the potential for everything that evolves was already present in the one.
Right. Involution is the world's soul folding itself into denser and denser, more elemental matter. The vibrations are lowered before they can be raised again in evolution.
So it's like a stepping back to take a giant leap forward.
Exactly. And the book says that the world's soul plunged into manifestation, creating these coverings of really dense elemental matter, different from the elements we know today, maybe existing on other planes or earlier stages of the universe.
So it's like a primordial soup, a raw material for creation.
Yeah, and when it reaches the lowest point of this involution, the law of rhythm kicks in.
That cosmic pendulum swing we were talking about earlier.
Right, and that starts evolution, the upward climb, and the beginning of what they call individualization.
So things start to separate, become distinct.
Yeah, the world soul seems to split up, and these active centers start asserting themselves. At first, they form simple molecules, and they have just a tiny bit of mind because the matter is so dense.
What's a start?
It's the first step. And then evolution goes pretty fast in a spiral pattern.
Yeah.
First, you get the mineral kingdom.
Rocks and crystals and stuff.
Yeah, but the book emphasizes that even minerals have life and mind, just very basic forms of them.
Okay, so even seemingly inert matter is part of this web of life.
Everything is connected. And then comes plant life, which at first looked a lot like crystals.
So the boundaries between the kingdoms of life were blurry at the beginning.
Yeah. The book even mentions these half-mineral, half-plant life forms that existed when Earth was still super hot.
Wow, that's fascinating, like a missing link between the kingdoms.
Yeah, they reproduced by splitting and grew from the inside out, sort of like a bridge between minerals and plants.
So evolution wasn't always this neat linear progression.
No, it was more like a dance, a weaving together of different forms. And the book points out that even higher life forms still have elements from the mineral kingdom.
Like the minerals in our bones and blood.
Exactly. We carry that ancient history within us. And early plant life was really basic, like a crystal. Then came these ancestors of what they call clomatia.
Clomatia, what's that?
It's a term they use for something that has both plant and mineral characteristics. And then later came angiospores and gymnospores.
Those sound like early forms of plants.
Yeah, maybe even the earliest forms of animal life. It's not totally clear.
So this whole evolutionary climb, what's driving it? What's pushing things to become more complex, more conscious?
The book says it's the inherent striving of life and mind within matter to express themselves more fully.
It's like an inner urge, a cosmic yearning to become.
Exactly. And they see protoplasm, the basic stuff of life, as the physical expression of this drive.
Okay, so everything is striving for greater expression, greater complexity. And this leads us to the idea of the universal flame of life.
Yes, the idea that life is one continuous fire. It's beautifully described in the fifth aphorism. The one is the flame of life. The many are the sparks in the flame. The flame, once lighted, kindles everything within its sphere. The fire is in everything and everywhere. There's nothing dark or cold within its sphere.
So it's not just a bunch of separate flames, it's all connected, all part of the same source.
Yeah, it's like a single fire with countless sparks. And the symbol they use for this is a circle filled with fire.
Fire is such a powerful symbol for life, for spirit. It's no wonder it shows up in so many traditions.
And the flame itself, while it's always burning, it's constantly changing. The particles within it are always different. And that's like universal life. It's always the same essence, but it manifests in countless different forms, constantly changing, evolving.
And the book points out that science used to think there was a hard line between living and non-living things, but occultists have always said that everything is alive in some way.
Yeah, everything has a spark of that universal flame within it. And it's interesting that modern science is starting to recognize this interconnectedness.
The idea that even seemingly inanimate matter has some kind of energy, some kind of vibrancy.
Yeah, and they're starting to question the old materialist view that life and mind are just products of matter.
Like maybe it's the other way around. Maybe matter is the outer expression of something deeper, something that includes life and mind.
Right. And the book reiterates this core principle. The fire is in everything and everywhere. There is nothing dark or cold within its sphere.
So everything is alive, everything is connected. And that brings us to the concept of consciousness, which is much broader than just our human awareness.
Yeah, it's everywhere, in everything. And that's where the sixth aphorism comes in, with the idea of the planes of consciousness. As life is the essence of spirit, so is consciousness the essence of life. Spirit is one, yet it manifests in many forms of life. Life is one, yet it manifests in many forms of consciousness. Well, the forms of manifested consciousness are innumerable, yet the wise know consciousness to manifest on 7 planes.
7 planes of consciousness? That's a big concept.
It is. And these planes, they're like a hierarchy, ranging from the most basic elemental level all the way up to the divine.
So consciousness is evolving, becoming more complex, more refined.
Yeah. The 7 planes are the plane of the elements, the plane of the minerals, the plane of the plants, the plane of the animals, the plane of the human, the plane of the demigods, and the plane of the gods.
And the Rosicrucians use the symbol of a chain of 7 circles to represent this.
Right, a chain, to show that they're all connected. And consciousness in this context is really broad. It's not just our human awareness.
So what exactly are we talking about when we say consciousness in this sense?
It's defined as the ability to receive impressions from outside stimuli and respond to them.
So even very simple organisms are conscious in this way.
Yeah, everything is conscious on some level. But consciousness here includes all forms of awareness, from the most basic to the most advanced. And each of the 7 planes is divided into 7 subplanes, and each of those into 7 minor planes, and so on, 7 times.
Okay, so let's break down a few of these planes. The plane of the elements, that's the most basic level, right?
Yeah, that's where the fundamental actions and reactions between things like atoms and electrons happen.
The building blocks of matter.
Right. And the forces of attraction and repulsion at the atomic level, those are seen as expressions of consciousness operating on this plane.
So even atoms have a form of consciousness.
In a way, yeah. And they even suggest that occult magic might work by acting on the consciousness of material atoms.
That's a pretty wild idea.
It is. And then you have the plane of the minerals, which is not just about inert rocks and crystals.
So even minerals have a level of consciousness.
Yeah, the text says that consciousness manifests here in the actions and reactions of molecules and masses of minerals.
Things like cohesion and gravitation are seen as expressions of a kind of molecular like and dislike.
Right, and even the process of crystallization, the way crystals form these intricate structures, is understood to follow a design that's embedded in the consciousness of the mineral particles themselves.
So it's not just random chance. There's a kind of intelligence, a blueprint, guiding the growth of crystals.
Exactly, and then you move up to the plane of the plants, which is kind of a transitional plane.
A bridge between minerals and animals.
Yeah, consciousness here operates mainly through instinctual responses at the level of protoplasmic cells.
So plants are aware of their environment and respond to it, but it's mostly unconscious.
Yeah. And then we get to the plane of the animals, where consciousness starts to look more familiar to us.
Animals can learn, they have emotions, they seem to have some level of self-awareness.
Right, the spectrum of consciousness on this plane is really wide, ranging from basic awareness in simple organisms to pretty advanced awareness in higher animals.
And the book emphasizes that each animal has the level of intelligence it needs to survive.
Yeah, they're perfectly adapted to their environments. And they trace the origins of animal life back to the primeval oceans, these single-celled organisms.
Like amoebas and things like that.
Exactly. And it's interesting, they point out that those early life forms look a lot like the cells that make up our own bodies.
So we're built from the same basic building blocks as those ancient creatures.
Yeah, and the book even talks about consciousness operating at a cellular level within our own bodies.
Like our individual cells have a kind of mind of their own.
They suggest that, yeah, the cells in our bodies are like individual living creatures, each with its own form of mind. And they're all coordinated by a larger group mind of the organism.
It's like a whole ecosystem within our bodies.
Yeah, and they point to processes like digestion and healing as evidence of this cellular intelligence at work.
Our bodies are doing incredibly complex things all the time without us even having to think about it.
Exactly. And then we come to the plane of human consciousness, where self-awareness really emerges.
That sense of I am that we take for granted.
Yeah. This is the plane where we humans hang out, and it has 7 subplanes of its own. It's connected to both the highest expressions of animal consciousness and the lowest levels of demigod consciousness.
So we're kind of in the middle, with the potential to move in either direction.
Yeah, and the key characteristic of this plane is self-consciousness, the awareness of I am. But even in the most basic forms of human consciousness, there's a glimmer of this self-awareness.
But the book warns that this self-awareness can be misused.
Yeah, it can lead to a focus on sensual gratification and negative traits.
Like selfishness, greed, all those things.
Right. True spiritual progress, they say, is about detaching the sense of self from its instruments, the body, the mind, the emotions.
So realizing that we're not just our thoughts and feelings, there's something deeper.
Exactly. And they say that mastering our thoughts and emotions is not only possible, but it's the beginning of a more authentic life.
So taking control of our inner world.
And they also talk about the subconscious mind as a powerful force that can be consciously directed.
Like tapping into a hidden reservoir of potential.
Yeah. And the average person, they say, is only really conscious on the lower subplanes of human consciousness.
So there's a whole lot more to explore within ourselves.
And they say that advanced occultists can take shortcuts to these higher subplanes through training.
So it's not just about waiting for evolution to take its course. We can actively accelerate our own development.
Right. And then we move into some really mind-blowing territory with the plane of the consciousness of the demigods.
This is where things get really esoteric.
It is. The beings on this plane are described as advanced souls who are helping humanity evolve.
Like spiritual guides or teachers.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And they say that the human race as a whole is slowly moving towards this level of consciousness.
So we're all on a journey towards greater awareness, greater unity.
Right. And people can sometimes have glimpses of this plane, brief flashes of awareness.
Like moments of intense inspiration, religious ecstasy, mystical experiences, what they call cosmic consciousness.
And the defining feature of this plane is a sense of oneness with universal life.
Like feeling completely connected to everything.
Yeah. And the book talks about Dr. Buck's characteristics of cosmic consciousness.
Things like a sudden onset, a feeling of light, a sense of immortality, and increased intellectual capacity.
Right. And they also mention Emerson's essay on the Oversoul, which describes similar experiences.
So these glimpses of higher consciousness, they can have a profound impact.
Yeah, they can lead to artistic genius, universal sympathy, a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of all things.
And the people who are functioning consistently on these higher subplanes, they're described as supernatural beings, like invisible helpers and white magicians. So these are the people who are actively working for the benefit of humanity from a higher level of awareness.
And finally, we reach the plane of the consciousness of the gods, the highest level of all.
This is the summit, the ultimate goal.
Yeah, it's described as a realm of unparalleled knowledge, power, life, and bliss.
Almost beyond our comprehension.
It is. And it's important to note that this plane is populated by personal gods, not the ultimate geode he had.
So there's still a distinction between the manifested and the unmanifest, even at this highest level.
Right. And the key characteristic of this plane is the realization of complete identity with the infinite.
So the sense of separation completely dissolves.
Yeah, it's seen as an illusion, and only very rare glimpses of this level of consciousness filter down to the earthly plane.
But some highly evolved souls have managed to pierce the veil and experience this reality.
They have. So we have this incredible map of consciousness, evolving from the most basic to the most divine.
And now the question is, how does this apply to us as individuals?
That's where the seventh aphorism comes in, with the concept of the sevenfold soul of man. The soul of man is sevenfold, yet but one in essence. Man's spiritual unfoldment has as its end the discovery of himself beneath the sevenfold veil.
So we have these 7 veils that both conceal and reveal our true nature.
Exactly. And the symbol for this is a human figure surrounded by 7 outlined shapes, all within the circle of the infinite unmanifest.
So those 7 shapes represent the 7 layers of the soul.
Yes, the infinite unmanifest manifests as the elemental soul, then the mineral soul, the plant soul, the animal soul, the human soul, the soul of the demigods, and finally the soul of the gods, before resolving back into pure spirit.
So we're on this journey of unfolding from the most basic to the most divine aspects of ourselves.
And the veils, they're like a series of filters, a way for spirit to manifest and express itself.
They both limit us and reveal us at the same time.
Yeah, it's like the analogy of a breezy drapery and 7 gloves on an invisible hand.
The gloves obscure the hand, but they also allow it to interact with the world.
Right. And each of these veils has its own function, its own characteristics. The elemental soul is the animating principle of the physical body.
It's what gives us life.
The mineral soul governs the mineral and chemical processes in the body.
So it's responsible for our physical structure.
The plant soul is responsible for growth and other instinctive bodily functions.
Like breathing and digestion.
The animal soul is the seat of our desires, passions, and emotions.
It's the part of us that feels, that reacts.
The human soul is the self-conscious I, the part that thinks and reasons.
It's the part that struggles with choices, that tries to make sense of the world.
The soul of the demigods is where we connect with universal life, where we experience higher qualities like sympathy and justice.
It's the source of inspiration, of intuition.
And the soul of the gods is the ultimate level, where we realize our oneness with everything.
That's the goal, the realization of our true nature.
And a concept that's really important here is metempsychosis, or reincarnation.
The idea that we live multiple lives.
Exactly. It's the survival of the individual soul after death and its rebirth in a new body.
So it's not just one life and then it's over. We keep coming back, learning and growing with each lifetime.
And it's an ancient teaching. You find it in the records of almost every ancient culture, and it's becoming more popular in the West again.
People are starting to realize that there might be more to life than just this one physical existence.
And the book says that the evolution of humanity is driven by the progress of the reincarnating soul.
Each lifetime is a step on the ladder of spiritual development.
And rebirth is seen as natural, not something to be feared.
It's just part of the cycle of existence.
And the book says that there's tons of evidence for reincarnation, like past life memories that people recall under hypnosis or through intuition.
It's amazing how many people have these experiences.
And the Rosicrucians, they don't really argue for reincarnation. They present it as a given, something that's supported by ancient wisdom and personal experience.
Like it's self-evident to those who are open to it.
And they point out that many great thinkers throughout history believed in reincarnation.
People like Pythagoras, Plato, the ancient Egyptians, Hindus, Druids, even early Christians. So it's not just a fringe belief, it's been a core teaching in many traditions.
Yeah. And the book says that past lives can influence our present lives in all sorts of ways.
Like our talents, our likes and dislikes, even our relationships.
Right. The law of attraction is seen as playing a role in bringing together people who have shared past lives.
So maybe that's why we feel so drawn to certain people or instantly dislike others.
It could be, yeah. And they say that understanding our past lives can help us release old attachments and karmic entanglement.
So it's not just about remembering the past, it's about freeing ourselves from it. So let's talk about what happens between lives. What does the book say about the life after death?
Well, at the moment of death, the soul leaves the physical body, but it's still wearing the garments of the elemental soul.
Yeah.
And it's still connected to the body by a thin cord.
Like an umbilical cord to the physical world.
Yeah. And then the soul goes to the astral plane.
Which is not a physical place, but a state of being.
Right. It's a higher vibrational frequency than the physical plane.
And when the soul gets there, it goes into a deep sleep.
Yeah, like a coma. It's a period of preparation for existence on the astral plane.
So it's not like we suddenly wake up in heaven or hell.
No, it's more gradual than that.
Yeah.
And the book says that peaceful minds have a dreamless sleep, while those with strong earthly desires have astral dreams.
So our state of mind at death influences our experience on the astral plane.
And it also says that the grief of the people left behind can disturb the sleeping soul.
So it's important to let go with love and peace.
Yeah. But the soul is protected during this sleep, so it's not like it can be harmed.
And how long does this soul sleep last?
It varies. More spiritually developed souls sleep longer.
So it's like a gestation period, a time for the soul to integrate its experiences.
And when the soul wakes up on the astral plane, it experiences this amazing world of colors and sounds and forms.
Much more vibrant than the physical world.
And there are all sorts of beings there, elementals, nature spirits, other human souls, and advanced adepts.
So it's a whole other realm of existence.
And over time, the soul sheds the garments of the elemental soul and moves up to higher subplanes of the astral.
Ascending towards greater light, greater awareness.
And the time between incarnations, that varies too. It depends on how attached the soul is to earthly things and how spiritually advanced it is.
So some souls might reincarnate quickly, while others might spend centuries or even millennia on the higher planes.
Right.
And this cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, it seems to be connected to a larger pattern of evolution, the cyclic evolution of races.